Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Ted Flint. With us today, Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis, who serves the 60th Assembly District, which includes Staten Island, Bay Ridge, and Brooklyn. Assemblywoman Malliotakis, nice to have you.
Thank you.
Halfway through the legislative budget season, and I guess the big first half is done, the part where the budget is adopted, and it was adopted not just on time, but actually a day early, which is news here in Albany. $132.5 billion spending plan the governor put out there, and it reduces spending by 2%. Your overall views of what was adopted?
Well, first I'd like to say that, as a freshman lawmaker, I'm very happy to be part of a budget process that was on time, and I think it's a credit to, the new governor, the change in hands in the Senate, and also the new legislative body that we have. We really had a lot of fresh legislators coming in that really were serious about making reforms. And secondly, this was a difficult budget, and it is a painful budget for many people. But, unfortunately, it is the first and necessary step that we need to take here in New York to put the state back on track. And I think that's what we did. I mean, we did close a $10 billion budget deficit in this budget, and we did so by reducing spending, by encouraging efficiencies, and without raising taxes. So I think that's an important first step that we needed to take as a state to become more fiscally solvent, and we really need to sacrifice today to make investments in our community tomorrow, and I think that's exactly what we did with this budget.
You have a strong executive this year. I think that made a difference, as you mentioned in your opening. That played a big part in things moving along as quickly as they did.
Yes, I absolutely commend the governor for his leadership and moving this process along, and he, I think, is a good leader for the state, and he's exactly the type of leader that we need right now.
I expected more battles, or more acrimonious battles with education and health care. I guess all the sides concerned realize this is a tough budget year, and they're going to have to make sacrifices.
Absolutely. I think that's what it came down to. As I said, this budget is painful. It hurts a lot of people. But we have to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow, and that's really what it came down to.
Now, we'll get into some aid to localities. I guess there was some restoration and some funds to aid to localities. Yes. I don't have the number in front of me.
Well, specifically for my district, what I was really concerned with going through this process was the Title 20 funds for senior citizens that was cut from the budget in the executive's proposal. The Assembly and the Senate rejected that proposal. Basically, the money was about $37 million. Of that money, about $27 million went to the City of New York, and the City of New York used those funds to fund the senior centers across New York City. And Mayor Bloomberg had said, without that money, we may have to close 110 senior centers. So it was definitely something that myself and my colleagues in the district were advocating against. We certainly, I feel very strongly that the seniors have built our communities, they've paid taxes here their whole lives, and that they've earned these programs. I didn't want to see any senior centers being cut, so that was something that I definitely advocated for throughout the process, and thankfully that money was restored. So we were able to go back to our districts last Friday with good news for the seniors, that money has been restored and their senior centers should remain open.
Well, you outlined your opposition to any cuts in aid to localities on the floor of the Assembly. We'll take a look at that. Okay. We'll come back with Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis.
We all know that there are many painful decisions that we made in this spending plan that will greatly impact the daily lives of New Yorkers in all corners of the state. This budget is a reflection of the economic reality we are all struggling to cope with, but it is the first necessary step to make our state fiscally solvent and return New York as the economic engine of the nation. Despite some difficult cuts, many partial restorations have been made to this budget to protect our most vulnerable citizens, and I'm especially pleased in this particular bill to see that the spending of Title 20 funds has been kept at the discretion of localities so that they can continue to fund our senior centers. I applaud the governor and this legislative body for recognizing the importance of providing these services to our deserving seniors who have spent their entire lives building our communities and paying taxes here. At the end of the day, that this budget closes a $10 billion budget deficit by reducing spending, encouraging efficiencies, and by not raising taxes. Imposing the long-term reforms and savings in this spending plan is a responsible thing for us to do and will enable us to better invest in our communities in the future. We must sacrifice today for a better tomorrow, and therefore I will be voting for this budget in its entirety in the affirmative. Thank you.
All right. Before we get any further into the program, we want to make mention of the fact that you have a new district office, opening up a new district office in Bay Ridge.
Yes, currently I have one on Midland Avenue in Staten Island, and I am sharing a district office with Senator Marty Golden in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and that's on 5th Avenue and 74th Street. We decided to share an office because of what's going on right now with the budget. It didn't make sense, and it didn't respect the taxpayers if we were going to open an office down the street and double the cost. So we decided the best thing to do would be to share an office, and not only that, but it gives the constituents the opportunity to come see both of their state legislators in one location.
Yeah, and you have a phone number for that, or we can?
718-667-5891 is the phone number for both.
Okay, and we'll give that number again at the end of the program. Let's talk about the MTA, talk about a hot-button topic. The MTA, I guess, experienced a $900 million shortfall last year. In your opinion, is transit service keeping pace with demand for transportation?
In my district, it certainly is not. In this particular district, last year, we lost 8 buses, either completely eliminated or service was reduced. And one, the B37 in Bay Ridge was completely eliminated, which really was the lifeline of the community. Seniors relied on it, employers relied on it, businesses relied on it to bring customers onto 3rd Avenue. Seniors relied on it to get on to their appointments, doctor appointments downtown, to do some of their shopping. It really has had a huge impact on our community, and that's something that Senator Golden and I have been fighting to try to get restored. In addition to that, in the Staten Island portion of the district, we had many buses eliminated, including the bus that I took to get to work every day in Manhattan. That was the X18 Rosebank. And so I could tell you firsthand my experience. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I ran for office, because I was just so fed up with paying more and more and getting less service. I mean, they've increased the MTA fees and our utility bills. Our vehicle registration fees, our driver's license fees. They added the MTA payroll tax to our small businesses during an economic crisis when they want us to create jobs. They're creating another tax that we have to pay for every job that we create. So it's completely outrageous. And the more they ask us to spend, they keep reducing service. At least if they were maintaining service, I could understand.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are the comments. That's the essence of what's going on here with the MTA. And we have a clip of you with Jay Walder, who's the head of the MTA, CEO.
He's the chairman of the MTA, and this clip is from the budget hearings we had earlier.
All right, so let's take a look at that, and we're back with Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis.
I think part of the frustration for my constituents is that they're consistently asked to pay more and they receive less. We have the highest toll in the nation. Just went up to $12. Okay. Our working families were asked to pay more for driver's licenses, learner's permits, vehicle registrations due to the increased MTA fees. Our small businesses are burdened with the MTA payroll tax. And during these economic times, quite frankly, I mean, that was a penalty to our businesses. You create a job. During these economic times, we want everybody to create jobs. You're telling me for every job I create, you're going to penalize me? I mean, I think that, I bring this all up only because it's just not fair that we're paying more, and yet we're not. I can understand if we were keeping the 8 buses. Okay, we're paying more, we're paying increased taxes, we're paying increased fares, we're paying increased tolls, and yet at least we're maintaining the service. But in this situation, we're not. And as someone who commuted 8 years to Manhattan from Staten Island, I could tell you that it's wrong. It's wrong to continually ask our constituents to pay more and more and more and more, yet receive less in service. And to me, it's just unacceptable. And my question really is, what steps are you taking to rectify the situation and provide the adequate service that our taxpayers deserve?
We worked last year to deal with a $900 million shortfall in the resources that were expected to come to the MTA. $143 million of that shortfall was due to the deficit reduction program enacted by the legislature. And the balance of that shortfall was due to shortfalls in dedicated taxes to the MTA, which, due to the weak regional economy, did not come in at the levels that had been expected. We worked very, very hard, and I appreciate the points that have already been made in this hearing by people who have recognized the way that we worked hard to be able to drive costs out of the MTA so that we didn't have to put this burden back on our customers, either in the process of service reductions or fare increases.
Okay, in the interest of time, we've got to move it along. I wish we could follow up on that, maybe in a future program. Let's talk about the amount of paperwork involved here in state government. You want to reduce the paperwork. You'd like to see New York State go digital. Tell us about it.
Well, it all started when I walked into the chamber on the day that the Assembly had introduced their budget proposal, and on my desk in the chamber was a stack of paper this high, and I was just beside myself. I couldn't believe the waste that every single legislator in that room had a stack of papers like this for one bill. You know, unfortunately, in the Constitution of New York State right now, it requires bills to be laid on your desks for 3 days before they can be voted on. And this is something that Assemblyman Jim Tedesco and I think needs to be changed. We think it's a complete waste of taxpayer money. We get already these bills sent to us in email format, or they are available online as well. Right. So it really is a waste of money to continuously print these documents and leave them on our desk. In addition, every week they come out with a book with every new bill that comes out. So it's like a telephone book pretty much.
Weekly?
Every single week. So, you know, 5 bills are added, let's say, a new book comes out that week. And it's almost as if, you know, you're getting a new phone book sent to your house for 5 people that move into the neighborhood. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a waste of money. And during these economic times, we really need to find a way to not only save money, but, you know, respect the environment. I mean, this really is not a good policy for the state. And so, you know, Assemblyman Tedesco and I have been outspoken about this issue, and we will continue to push the subject as we continue this session.
All right, about 3 minutes left. Let's get to the final piece. This involves Medicaid, healthcare committee hearing you had recently in your exchange with James Sheehan, who is the Inspector General for Medicaid. We'll get to it, and then we'll come back and we'll comment, and we'll wrap it up with Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis.
As elected officials, it is our primary responsibility to do what's in the best interest of our constituents. And in a transition, is important to make it as seamless as possible, especially to constituents who have invested so much time with my predecessor to solve different constituent items. Upon arrival at my office, which I inherited, there were absolutely nothing, no files whatsoever. The cabinets were completely empty, file cabinets, not one constituent item. And following about a week later, we received a call from a senior citizen who is disabled, who had an ongoing issue, actually since August, about senior housing. And unfortunately for this constituent, we had no information in terms of, you know, where it was left, what agency was handling it, and now this constituent, unfortunately, has to try to find her documents, see if she has any letters, any type of information at home, so she can let us know where this case left off. So I think that this is a very important piece of legislation. I proudly sponsor this legislation with the Assemblyman, and I thank him for bringing this to the forefront because, you know, when the election is over, it's no longer about the campaign. It's time to govern. And the best way we can do that, and what is our responsibility to do, is to do what's in the best interest of our constituents, make sure that it's a seamless transition, and I hope that this legislation will pass and will take care of that problem. Thank you.
All right, that was the wrong clip, obviously. Let's, why don't you comment on that, constituent files?
Well, a number of the new legislators who came in this year found that their offices were empty without constituent files. And in my case, we had no constituent files, and we had a couple of individuals who called to follow up on cases they had opened with my predecessor, and we had no documents to kind of know where they left off. So it really put the burden on the constituent then to go scrambling and looking for any paperwork or files that they had related to their case. In some cases, you know, people were working on this for six months to a year, and you know, they have nothing to show for it now. So it really put the burden on it, and so we did a press conference to make it a crime to destroy open constituent files.
That's going to be the last word. We're out of time. Let's get the phone number for your district office.
Sure, 718-667-5891, and I also urge my constituents to please find me on Facebook.
All right. All right, Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis, thanks for joining us on Assembly Calendar. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Assembly Calendar. We'll see you soon. I'm Ted Flint.